Hello guys, today we will talk about two English exams, TOEFL and IELTS, and we will dig deeper to see which one is easier for you. I am Kübra and this is my channel about how can you approach the decisions that are going to affect your success. In this video, I'll share differences and similarities between IELTS and TOEFL and how these differences make them easier or harder than the others. TOEFL and IELTS are both English exams for the people whose native language is not English and people who lives in non-English speaking countries. There is two types of IELTS, IELTS general test and IELTS academic test, and there is TOEFL IBT. IELTS general test is for immigration and finding job purposes, and the IELTS academic is to be able to enroll to universities who taught in English. TOEFL is only academic, there is no general TOEFL exam. IELTS general is easier both from the IELTS academic and TOEFL, but almost all of the university that you are going to apply is going to require IELTS academics and TOEFL. If you have a chance to take the IELTS general, take that one. That one is easier, but probably it's not going to be the case if you are taking these exams for your university applications. TOEFL is a test of English as a foreign language, and it's created by a company called ETS. It is older than IELTS and it is largely accepted in USA. IELTS is International English Language Testing System and it's created by the University of Cambridge and it's mostly accepted by the countries who speaks British English. It is vastly accepted in Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Canada, and now also in Europe. There is two types of TOEFL. First one is TOEFL IBT. It's internet-based test. You take it through a computer in a test center, and there is a TOEFL Home Edition. You take it through your own computer. You're at home. You are watched during your exam by someone to make sure that you're not cheating or anything. If you're in a country where the exams are still not open face-to-face, maybe you can take the TOEFL Home Edition. Some universities accept this Home Edition test. If the university that you're going to apply accept this and you don't have the test centers open yet, this could be a good option for you. IELTS is both paper and computer based. I think computer based is not available in everywhere in the world, but it's becoming more and more common. Both exam has 4 sections: reading, listening, speaking and writing. I'll talk about the sections in both of the exams and I'll give you my opinion on which one is easier and which one is harder. Since these exams are taken to be able to get into the universities that you want to study, first thing you should do is check the websites of the universities and see which exam they require for your application. If they only accept one of them, you have to go and take that one. For example, MIT and Stanford, especially in the engineering parts, they only accept TOEFL exam. Some universities in England would only accept IELTS. So let's start. First of all, TOEFL is in American accent and IELTS is in British accent. Which accent that you are more comfortable with? If you studied British English in the school, if you are more familiar with that, or if you learned English through the American movies, American TV series, you should go for the TOEFL. There is 4 sections in both of them. Let's check each one of the 4 sections. So the first section is reading. In the TOEFL reading, there are several passages that you need to answer multiple choice questions according to the passage that is given. And the IELTS, there are fill-in-the-blank questions, matching questions. Not all of them are multiple choice questions, but it is similar. You have some texts, some passages, and you answer the questions accordingly. But the main difference between TOEFL and IELTS, I would say in the TOEFL, you have more academic passages and they are generally harder than the passages that are in the IELTS, because IELTS both has the academic passages and some passages from the newspapers. The time is quite limited on the TOEFL side. I took the TOEFL and on the reading part, I actually scored 30 out of 30, but I was like, in a rush to be able to finish it. I didn't expect that I was going to get 30. If you have some timing issues, maybe you should go for the IELTS. And in general, I would say the IELTS reading is easier. But if you think you are better at multiple choice questions, and if you don't have any problem with the timing, maybe you can go for the TOEFL also. If you are more comfortable with the easier passages and you think that you can write down the answers without having any spelling errors, maybe you can go with the IELTS. And the listening section. In the listening section, both of them has some listening passages. In a TOEFL, that you listen and you answer 5 to 6 questions according to listening passage. And there are, I think, 4 or 5 passages that you are going to listen during the exam. In the TOEFL, you listen a passage and then you answer the questions. In the IELTS, you need to listen and take notes and answer the questions at the same time. In the listening part of the TOEFL, the questions are multiple choice, and in the TOEFL, I actually didn't need to take notes to be able to answer the questions, because like you just listen the passage, it's like 1 minute, then you have a time to answer the questions. You already remember almost everything from the listening passage and you don't need to take notes. So I find it hard to answering questions while actually listening them. So TOEFL listening part was much easier for me. I actually scored 29 out of 30. I think I just used like half of the time it was given to answer the questions in the listening part. In my opinion, the TOEFL listening part is easier, because if you do a spelling error, your answer will be wrong. I prefer multiple choice. I was more comfortable at the TOEFL listening section. Let's continue with the speaking section. I think in the speaking section, biggest difference, in the TOEFL you talk to a computer, and on the IELTS you talk to a person. The IELTS questions, 2 of them, it's actually more like conversational. You say something, they ask you follow-up questions. But in the TOEFL, you just keep talking and you are giving an answer to a question in a limited time. So the TOEFL speaking part has 4 different questions. The first question asks your opinion about something, and you have like 15 seconds to get ready and 45 seconds to speak. Time element is very important here again, because 15 seconds is a very little time to get ready. And it is similar for the other questions. You have 20 to 30 seconds to get ready. But on the IELTS side, the first one is going to be a conversational. They are going to ask you some questions about yourself. It is going to be with a real human interaction, like talking. In general, when we talk about the questions and when we talk about the environment, I would say IELTS speaking part might be easier than the TOEFL. But in my opinion, I think the TOEFL was easier, because in the IELTS, somebody is taking notes while you speak. Think like this: I'm talking and the person in front of me is taking notes while I speak. I would be so nervous. Like I would say something and he would take notes, and I would be like, oh my god, did I say something wrong? Why did he take a note? What was wrong? And like I would be panicking like this probably. This is why I find it better to just talk to a computer, and I would like to actually know how much time I have to structure my sentences. In the TOEFL, you see every second that's left in front of you. This could be stressful for some, this could be useful for some, so you need to make your decisions accordingly. Instructor, the person that you are talking together, is not going to tell you every second of it. They're just going to say, okay, your time is finished, or if you stop before the time is over, they will give you some hint to go on. Like for example, one of my friends took the IELTS and it was a 3-minute question. She finished earlier than 3 minutes, and her instructor makes something like this, giving her a hint to keep talking because she still had her time. For so many people, talking to a computer was a hard thing, but now like most of us are taking our classes, doing our work through our computers, and we are always on some Zoom calls. I found it quite similar to that experience actually. It felt natural to me talking to a computer since we got used to it a lot. So I think this part got easier for all of us. I say that like I prefer TOEFL. I didn't score very well actually on the TOEFL speaking part. I got 24 out of 30, but still I would say it's not that hard. Well, let's move on to writing part. On the writing section, there is a huge debate if it's the TOEFL the easier one or the IELTS is the easier one. I'll explain how both of them structured. You can decide on your own which one is easier for you. In the TOEFL writing section, you'll have 2 tasks. First one will be integrated writing. For integrated writing, you'll have an article and you'll have a listening passage about the same topic. And there is a specific structure that you need to follow. You need to combine those speaking and reading parts and you need to write about them. You won't give any opinion. It's just going to be summarizing what you heard from listening and what you have read in the reading part. And the second one will be about your opinion on something, and here you are welcome and also encouraged to share your own experiences. So since you are writing from your own experience, writing is slightly easier than writing in an academic topic. So in the IELTS writing, there are 2 parts. The first one is going to include some maps, some graphs that you're going to describe what is presented. If you didn't prepare reports before about some maps and graphs, maybe this part could be a little bit challenging for you. And the second one is writing an essay in IELTS. This is going to be an argumentative writing, and there are so many different types of structures that you need to know before the exam. It makes it a little bit hard on the IELTS side, the writing. In the TOEFL, there is one structure you need to follow for the first question. In the second one is mostly like freestyle. Of course, you are going to have the introduction and the body paragraphs and the conclusion. But other than that, as I said, it's mostly freestyle. You are just giving your opinion on something. One thing that might make IELTS writing easier, you'll have around 1 hour to write 400 words. And in the TOEFL part, you'll have 50 minutes to write around 450 and 500 words. So again, in the TOEFL writing part, time is quite limited. One of the main differences in the writing part, in the TOEFL, you need to write it down on the computer. In the IELTS, you need to write it with your hand. Don't forget, in the TOEFL, you are going to need to use the American keyboard, and you might not used to using that. For example, for me, each time I tried to press the comma, I pressed something else, and I had a very limited time to correct my errors. In the end, it was a little bit stressful for me. Since I worked through a computer for months, I write in the keyboards all the time, so it was easier for me to write in the keyboard. So let's move on to general differences and similarities between the exams. Let's rule out some similarities. The cost of both exams are similar. The prices of both IELTS and TOEFL differ in countries, but in Turkey, for example, TOEFL is $185 and IELTS is 185 euros. IELTS is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and TOEFL used to be around 4 hours. In 2019 August, they changed this and they shortened the exam because there were less and less people taking TOEFL exam because it was too long. Now they shortened it around to 3 hours, and it's going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes for the IELTS. We can say the timing is similar for both of them. On the IELTS, you have your points graded from 9. So the points are going to increase or decrease half points according to your performance for each section. Reading section, writing section, you are going to get points from 9. And the TOEFL exam is going to be graded from 120. Each section has a 30 points. Points are increase or decrease in 1 point scale. The timing is very important for TOEFL. If you are a very slow reader, or if you have a difficulty keeping up with the time, you should maybe go for the IELTS. The second one is TOEFL is computer based, and you're going to be in an exam room with many people. Everybody will be working on their exam at the same time with you. In the speaking part, you might need to speak at the same time with other people. Earphones is going to cancel some of the noises around, but it's not going to cancel completely, so you should be ready for that. On the other hand, in the IELTS, you have an option to do it on a computer or in paper-based exam. The speaking part is not in the same day with the other parts of the exam, so you're going to be one-to-one with the instructor, and there is not going to be other people in the room while you speak. So if you're more comfortable with this, maybe you should go for the IELTS. If you think like, I want to do it in one day and I want to be done with it, TOEFL is done in 1 day, in one time, and for IELTS you might need to go take it in 2 separate times within 1 week. If you feel uncomfortable with that, maybe you should go for with the TOEFL. And also the most of the TOEFL question, other than the writing and speaking part, the questions are multiple choice questions. So if you feel more comfortable with the multiple choice questions, you should go for the TOEFL. So in my opinion, in reading, IELTS is easier. In listening, TOEFL is easier. In speaking, IELTS is easier, and in the writing section, the TOEFL is easier. Of course, this is my opinion, and in general, as I said, I prefer to take the TOEFL over IELTS, and that was what I did. I scored 107 in TOEFL. It's not like an amazing grade, but over 100 will be sufficient for many USA universities, so it was enough for me. In the end, what would I suggest you to do? Write down your strengths and check each part of the exam according to your strengths and which is better for you. And one thing you can do would help a lot if you can spare the time. If you can take one TOEFL exam sample and one IELTS exam sample, this will help you decide. I'm going to leave links for both free IELTS preparation and for free TOEFL preparation. Check both of them, write down your strengths and decide which is going to be the best one for you. And hope to see you in the other videos. I hope this was helpful. See you guys.